Thank you for joining us for the Black Hair Conversation alongside Glamour and Aveda in association with Black Skin Directory. I'm Dija Ayodele and I am the founder of Black Skin Directory. But that side, we're not here about that. We're here about the Black Hair Conversation. And just before we proceed into, having a good talk about, the facts and the real deal about black hair and Afro hair, I just want to take a moment to introduce everyone on the panel, because everyone here is seriously accomplished and I think we should all celebrate that. So first up, we have Renée Gadar, and she is Aveda's Global Artistic Director for Texture. And she has been in the game and passionate about hair from a very, very young age. And Renée does strive to educate others about the fascinating range and depth of all hair textures. And in her role, particularly Aveda, she leads a team of 5 talented texture artists in the Aveda network who advise the brand on product innovation, facilitate corporate education, and lead the training of the updated texture curriculum at Aveda's 64 partner institute locations. And so she is a busy, busy woman, and she does that globally. So thank you, Renée, for giving up your time this evening. We also have Jamelia Donaldson, who is the founder and CEO of Trichologists, which is Europe's largest monthly discovery subscription box for women with kinky, curly hair, delivering hair care packages to over 26 countries monthly. And also Jamelia is the co-creator of the Teen Experience, which is a series of personal development workshop series for teen girls. Since launching in 2015 with a huge online community and an active and thriving offline presence as well, Trichologists has proven that natural hair, beauty, sisterhood, and community go in hand, and I am here for it. So thank you so much, Jamelia. Last but not least, we have Eleanore Richardson, who is a consultant trichologist at the Fulham Scalp and Hair Clinic. She diagnoses hair and scalp conditions with a particular emphasis on the treatment of Afro and mixed hair and scalp conditions. Eleanore studied at the Institute of Trichologists and qualified as a member in 2015. And she is a fully paid up, qualified top level trichologist, because I know there's 2 different levels. So she regularly provides educational seminars and lectures on tackling hair bias, which is a lot of, healthy hair care practice, and also dealing with hair loss. So thank you so much, ladies. It's a pleasure to have you here this evening.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the introductions.
Yeah. Pleasure. So we're going to go straight in because we do have quite a few questions. So, and I'm going to direct the first question at you, Eleanore, actually. Okay. What sort of conditions do trichologists treat? And when should one start looking to see a trichologist?
Yeah, of course. So I think the most common things that people associate with trichologists is hair loss, hair shedding, drop in density, patches. And certainly we do treat all those things, or we can help to diagnose and figure out what's going on and give you an explanation. But also we treat loads of other things like flaky scalps, itchy scalps. If you've noticed that your hand's always in your scalp and it's picking at things, it doesn't sound particularly pleasant, but it also needs to have some expert advice to understand what's going on. So things like eczemas, psoriasis, even acne on the scalp, we treat. And then we've got another kind of group of customers who also come and see us because they actually want really clear, specialized expert advice on exactly how to care for their hair. What is a good routine, rather than trial and error with products over and over again. So it's my pleasure to, give them some guidance, get their questions answered, and then steer them in the right direction for them.
Fantastic. So taking on from, trial and error and trying loads of products. I mean, we have Trichologists, which is curated so that people can try very good quality products to be able to know what works for them. So leading straight into Jamelia. So how do you curate a box that people are able to learn from? How do you select the products so that people are able to get the best out of it?
So we work in a few different ways. As a team, we're 8 women, all got natural hair, but completely different hair types. So sometimes we're recommending our personal favorites. Other times we're working with our favorite brands to celebrate a launch and to help them launch. But otherwise, there is a typical formula that we stick to for our boxes. So it should contain a cleanser, a deep conditioner or mask, a leave-in conditioner, an oil or a styler. So that's our typical box. Every now and then we do like a styling box or a conditioning box. But typically speaking, Treasure Trust boxes are meant to deliver your wash day. So everything that you need to take care of your hair for that month, you're going to try it. And as far as the brands, as I mentioned, it's a range of different brands, personal favorites, new launches, exclusive launches, sometimes even pre-launches before they've hit the UK market as well. So a few different ways.
So it's actually very, very interesting to hear what happens. You know, it's not just random, it's actually very, very well considered, which is, I guess, this is what the Afro hair market needs, a well-considered selection of products to help look after hair health, which then leads me nicely on straight to Renée. You know, we talk about, we have a focus on the length of hair and on the ends of our hair, but you know, as someone who deals with different types of textures all the time, you know, you've got all that in the bag, but how do we maintain healthy hair, scalp and follicles? You know, because a lot of the time people might have long hair, but their scalp itself is not doing the thing we want it to do. So, you know, they have long hair, but it's like, okay, it's not even healthy. So how do we look at that?
Yeah, I mean, I believe healthy scalp, healthy hair. If your scalp is doing well and thriving, it'll show up in the rest of your hair. And just the way that I teach my clients about their hair and the way I teach hairdressers about hair is that you have to treat them as different entities. The hair that's closest to the scalp, that has all of your nutrients and the things that you need, and the hair that's been with you for a while, mid shaft to ends. And so taking care of those things like they're separate things is important. Like caring for your scalp and your roots, and then doing something, usually deeper conditioners or adding more oils to the mid shaft and ends throughout or in between wash days. And then even on cleanse days, making sure that you give particular attention to the mid shaft to ends. For Black women, usually it's like the mid shaft to ends has similar concerns to what the roots has too. And so, but for different textures, like looser textures, like wavy or curly, those mid shaft to ends they can be a different beast.
So really what you're saying is that, you know, you have to kind of almost look at your hair in sections. Yes. So the scalp is almost a different section to the mid, and then you have the ends. So it's almost like 3 sections if you want to look at it in that way, and tailor your hair care towards that. Fantastic. So in that case, Eleanor, when we talk about damage, how do things like hair follicles, how do they become damaged? What sorts of practices are people perhaps doing or not doing that causes damage to follicles?
So I think the most common damage that we end up seeing in the clinic is traction. So that's like a pulling force that's been applied because of a very tight style. Maybe it's, you know, very chunky braids or extensions or a weave-in style that's been there for a while as well. And I guess it's the easiest way to think about it is, you know, one follicle has kind of been designed by your body to cope with the weight of one hair. So the moment we put extra hair on that one follicle, it's like struggling straight away. And we see that eventually causing longer term damage, sometimes even scarring if it's been, you know, not treated. The same styles are being used again and again and again. And then the other kind of damage that we can see on follicles is usually around infection of the scalp. So infrequent cleansing, or maybe you're prone to acne, but you're not managing the acne very well, scratching, picking spots, allowing bacterial infection to spread. Any infection of any skin, you're going to see it causes inflammation, it causes a struggle. It's the same on your scalp. And like we've already said, unhealthy scalp, you're not going to get the best growing hair as a result. So we always want to deal with that and limit the damage as much as possible.
Fantastic. So we've just had a question come in actually in relation to sort of hair and scalp, especially in relation to the season we're in, which is we're going into winter very quickly. So question from Michelle, What are the key elements to maintaining moisture in the natural hair, especially in the winter months? I'm going to ask all of you to give your take on that, because I'm sure there might be some gems in there from each of you. So let's go with, I'll stick with you actually, Eleanor. You go first, and then we'll move on to Renee and Jamelia as well.
So for me, it's all about hydration. And I think that commonly gets confused sometimes with oils. So when I talk about hydration, I'm talking about water content and products that can offer that water content. Or my personal favorite is a good steam treatment. I love a steam treatment. Gets the water in there, but also it works really well, makes your products work really hard. So when it comes to the winter months, if you notice that, you know, the heating's on a bit more, maybe you're wearing more woolly hats, wrapping the hair a bit more, it will dry out. And so hydrating products, so high water content products, or steam treatments are going to really help for you there.
Fantastic. Renee, I mean, you guys have colder winters than us in New York, right? So, you know, what are you all doing?
Yeah, so I encourage folks to rethink cleansing as not just meaning shampoo, like you can cleanse with a co-wash, to like, you know, because I feel like shampoo can just be too stripping for the mid shaft to ends. So interchanging, like putting them in between your shampoos, and then also making sure that you're not sleeping on anything that's cotton. And then when you're using scarves or hats or things like that, making sure that your hair is up and it's not getting traction in the scarves, because usually people use warm materials for scarves such as cotton and wool, which like break snap at the hair. So wearing your hair up and away with that. They sell hats now, like little beanies that have satin inside of them so that you can be really gentle on your hair. And any like naturally occurring fabrics such as cotton or silk, they absorb the moisture, but satin is kind of like that money spot. So you're always sleeping with either a satin wrap or on a satin pillowcase for all the work that you're putting in when you're awake to keep or put moisture in your hair, making sure that you're maintaining that throughout the night as well and not depleting that even while you sleep, because there's just so many things that can detract from your moisture just when you walk outside your door. So at all costs, like trying to figure out ways to keep moisture.
I hear that. And Jamelia, I can imagine at this time of the year, your boxes are focused on that high moisture content, high hydration. So tell us a little bit more about that, your take.
Absolutely. I second what both Eleanor and Renee said. Silk satin pillowcases are my absolute go-to. I will not compromise on that, will not compromise on my bonnet or my headscarf. But in addition to that, something that I find really useful are leave-in conditioners. And when I was really on in my hair journey, I actually didn't realize that leave-in conditioners were something that as Black women, we actually had those made for us, and just how valuable they are. So for me, in the winter months, with the exception of today, because I've actually got my hair straightened, but when it is in its natural texture, moisturizing and sealing every day, even when my hair is straight, in fact, I'll just use a little less leave-in conditioner, but adding a leave-in conditioner to the ends of my hair and then following it up with an oil to lock in the moisture. And then I feel like I'm good to go. In addition to protective styling. So I am your bun queen when it is winter and when the months are cold, because I want my ends, as Renee said, off of my shoulders. I don't want it rubbing against my jackets. I want my ends tucked away. So between protective styling and applying leave-in conditioners and heavier butters and oils to trap in the moisture, those are definitely my go-tos.
Okay. But what about people like me? I have a short, I think it's called TWA, like
WA.
Afro. My ends are not going to be in a bun or protected. So what do girls like me do?
But there's things you can do, like you can still apply leave-ins and butters and twist your hair when you go to sleep, take it out when you wake up, experiment with bantu knots. Head wraps look amazing in winter, well, all year round, to be honest. Head wraps, but protecting your hair with a bonnet underneath the wrap. I think there's loads of things that you can do.
So we also have, you mentioned about oils, especially around this time of year. We have a question about, are oils any good for moisturizing Afro hair, or is leave-in conditioner better? I'll stick with you, Jamelia, because you've just spoken about that. So either or together?
No, not either or. Oils don't allow water to penetrate the hair shaft, which I'm sure Eleanor and Renee will speak a bit more on, but oil does not do the job of moisturizing the hair. And I think growing up as a Black woman, we're often taught like, oil your scalp, oil your hair, but that's actually not doing anything. So you definitely need to apply the leave-in conditioner first. You need to apply the leave-in conditioner first, and then apply the oil on top to lock in the moisture that the leave-in conditioner has just applied. And when you're looking at leave-in conditioners, you want water to be the first ingredient, or one of the first ingredients on the bottle as well.
Fantastic. I mean, Eleanor, I think we have had this conversation before about oils and more hydrating products. I'm going to hazard a guess what you'd say, but I'm going to let you say it anyway. Either or together, on top of each other?
So I would say my personal preference would be really more of an emphasis on leave-in conditioners, to be honest, just because if you need to, then you can build it up. I think if you're okay with just applying an oil over the top and then you don't have to apply any more products until wash day, then it's great. But applying an oil layer after your leave-in conditioner, and then maybe the next day or a day after needing to top up with another leave-in conditioner, that product then might not penetrate as well. So if you know that you're topping up with your product on a regular basis in between wash days, I would always stick with like a water-based leave-in conditioner, because you can apply it and build up that hydration as and when you need, and it's not necessarily going to be sitting on top of anything else that is like Jamelia said, it's a barrier, so it'll hold stuff in and it won't let stuff continue in. But I love a leave-in conditioner. I'm a massive fan of the leave-in conditioners myself. And it is about quality. You know, oils are beautiful when they're incorporated into a formulation. They have they show their best value when incorporated in. I think it's when we sort of like hug our castor oils and our coconut oils and assume that they're going to solve everything that we can hit a bit of a roadblock.
I see. And Renée, give us your take.
So I'm also learning, because I am a huge oil fan. Because but like not the way that's traditionally used, or like I know that coconut oil got really popular like 10 years ago, and everybody was putting coconut oil in, and I found that to be more drying on textured hair than helpful. And I found olive oil in its rawest form was most helpful. So I do like that. And the one thing that I don't really feel like I have anything to add to Eleanor or Jamelia, because I feel like I just learned out of that discussion as well. But the one thing that I wanted to say with at least deep conditioners, because I know hydration is a huge thing, and deep conditioners are going to be on everyone's shelf this winter as they start feeling drier, is not to sleep with deep conditioners in, because I know that's a little off topic, but yeah. So people, like, they're only intended to be on the hair for 20 to 30 minutes at best, even to go under a little heat or steam, yes, but they are meant to be washed out. You are not supposed to be sleeping with those, because they harden over the hair and they actually make the hair brittle over time. So even the best deep conditioner should be washed out, and then you should put a leave-in conditioner in. And yeah, I mean, I always put a leave-in conditioner and then put my oils on top, but I didn't understand why that worked best, but I just learned that here. So yeah.
Fantastic. Well, this is what it's for, isn't it? It's all first, it's the whole community, as Jamelia talks about, and the sisterhood. It's all about learning from each other. I mean, I was always a big fan of putting oils on my hair as well, until, I did the whole and the leave-in conditioner, and I think maybe just before wash day I might put a bit of an oil, because I know I'm about to wash, but throughout the week I'll just use the leave-in conditioners as well. But yeah, I am partial to an oil hair too. They smell nice.
So I have found with the Aveda Nutriplenish Deep Conditioner, when I mix in their multi-use oil set, and leave it on my hair for 20 minutes and then cleanse and then go to style, even when I spray the leave-in conditioner in, I get a lot more bounce and shine from it. And my hair just feels very supple. So I guess I was wondering, like, is that from like a trichologist's perspective and like what barriers are happening or what's not, does that?
It would definitely be, it would be like a cosmetic scientist needing to look into the ingredients, if I'm entirely honest. So there might be an emulsifying agent in the deep conditioner that's working to sort of be able to spread and distribute the oil enough, rather than it kind of sitting in one big layer when you put it on the hair. So by mixing it in, there's an emulsifying agent in there already, and then it's almost like it's incorporated within the formulation. So maybe that's what's happening. I wouldn't be able, don't quote me on that, I don't know the ingredients. But that would be my wavelength of what would be going on. Yeah.
But it's all working together, because it's like, I think you alluded to before, if the oil is in the formula, it works better than if it's just been on top.
Yeah, way better. You'll need emulsifying agents to spread it out.
I guess so. So we have a question from VK actually. So VK sent the question in saying, what would you recommend for length retention, especially on 4C hair? I think, you know, I have 4C hair, which is the tight curls, but, you know, that's just my layman explanation of it. It might be a good idea, before we answer that question, to kind of maybe go through the groupings of hair, because I've heard 4C, 4B and all that sort of stuff. How do these classifications come about, and you know, what do they mean?
So in some of the statistics that were coming up at the beginning of before our show actually started, was how much Black women spend on their hair and how little resources they have going to the salon to get help with their hair. And so because of that, I felt like YouTube exploded, because Black women didn't know what to do with their hair when they started leaving relaxers and coming into their natural selves. And so YouTube created this numeric system that we so commonly use now, because women were trying to find themselves on YouTube, find what people like them were using. And then you had these subgroups, 1 being straight, 2 being wavy, 3 being curly, and 4 being coily. And then there's these little subcategories in those groups.
So it's literally about Black women trying to find their tribe. Where do they sit? And that's how it's come about. Jamelia, do you get a lot of questions about, you know, hair typing and people wanting, you find you have to do a lot of education around that?
Yeah, we have some really interesting conversations about this actually. I first came across the hair typing system via Andre Walker, who was Oprah's stylist not too long ago, or at the time, who, I'm not sure if he created the system, but I know that he had heavy involvement in the use and the education of the hair typing system. But we get a lot of questions from our subscribers or women who are part of our community about which products they should use based on hair type. And our response is always, we can't tell you what products to use based on your hair type alone. For us, the hair typing system just isn't sufficient. I feel like there's so much more to hair. There's density, there's porosity. There's actually so many other attributes that determine whether or not a product works well for you. And I think also the way that you use a product is also really important. So the fact that all of our subscribers get the same product and they range from 3A curls to 4C curls, I think it's just testament to the fact that the way that you use products is really, really important to just how effective it is. So for example, like someone with 4C hair may want to use a lot more of the product versus someone with 3A hair whose hair may be weighed down by the product. So I think that the hair typing system is great for when you're early on in your journey and you're trying to find people whose hair looks like yours. But what I found in my own experience is that it's literally through trial and error of finding products, trying them and observing the results that you're able to see what really works for you. So long story short, it's great as like a guiding system very early on, but I think it's about you getting to know your hair and just building a relationship with your hair, because only you will know your hair the way that you do as you learn to love it.
I think you're absolutely right, because I know that on my hair alone, on my scalp alone, I have different types of hair textures. Absolutely. So if you're trying to pigeonhole yourself into, I am a 4C or I am a 3B, or I mean, I don't even know if the 3B exists, but you know, if you have all these letters and numbers and you're trying to pigeonhole yourself, inadvertently, you're restricting what you use. And parts of your head might be getting benefits and some parts aren't. So I have been told the majority of my hair is 4C. And I'm like, yeah, okay. And if I was trying to grow my hair, which I'm not, but if I was trying to grow my hair, what would I be doing to maintain this majority 4C hair to get length? Eleanor?
So for me, it would be always about, first of all, make sure that the scalp's healthy. We've already talked about that. I think we've covered that. Then it would be about making sure your hair is hydrated. With Afro hair, the tighter the curl pattern, the more porous it's going to be, and therefore the more likely it is that it might endure a bit of breakage compared to other hair types. And then it's also about, if there is a little bit of breakage or wear and tear going on, make sure you get a regular trim. And I think a lot of people see this as quite counterintuitive. Why would I take off hair to keep hair? But I think that if we go through the logic, when you don't trim your hair starts to wear and tear, and literally at the end of it starts to look like that. It sprays open like a little paintbrush and starts to split down the hair shaft. And actually it starts trimming itself. You're getting a haircut from yourself, but not a very good one. So when you go for a haircut, and I would always say, get a professional trim with someone who knows what they're doing, who can even out the length as they go. You're making sure that the end of the hair shaft is as neat as possible. You've got the tiny surface area to lose as little water as possible. And if you've got great water content in your hair, and we've talked already a bit about hydration, then the likelihood of breakage, of brittleness occurring is going to be less, and therefore your hair is going to last for longer.
Is that the same? Talking about cutting hair then. So Renée, is that the same as if you've got longer hair at the top and shorter hair at the nape? Is there any special things you should be doing for the back to the front, or is it all the same? Because I've got, faded down, yeah. And some Manny's asking a question, she's got 4, which is similar to what I've just said. She's got 4C hair that is shorter at the front and the nape. Oh, actually slightly different. Hold on. So she's got 4C hair that is shorter at the front and the nape. What can she do to care for the shorter areas? Now, I'd be like, cut the long bits to get to the short bits and then grow together, but I'm not a stylist. So Renée?
I would agree with that, cutting everything kind of in a similar length. If you're if things are short because of breakage and you're holding on to length that's kind of hanging out around your crown or longer, that's not like a look. I say cut your hair into a look, a style that you feel happy and confident with. And when something is cut into a look and it looks healthier, it always looks better than hair that looks like it's struggling to be where it's at. So take the confident step to go ahead and cut it so it's all one length. And I just wanted to echo what Eleanor was saying about the importance of a trim. Because I tell my clients that all the time. There are a lot of things that promise like the remedy of split ends, and it's not true. It seals them down, but it breaks apart and opens back up. And what happens is like these things continue to go up the hair shaft. So if you're not regularly trimming, these are moving up your hair shaft and making more damage as it goes along. So you're going to want to cut those ends so that it's not continuing to spread and split the hair shaft, right? So yeah, and thinking about hair in stages, closer to the scalp, getting more sebum and things like that. And then the mid shaft to ends, like your ends have been with you for X amount of years and it's probably been through a blow dry or two, has been through more environmental damage. And it's just like those things you need to regularly treat that so your hair can continue to grow in a healthy place. And if your hair is breaking or if it's short around all of this area here, then I'm imagining that the hair that's longer here is not in a good position. So to just cut that and kind of start over and working on like hydrating that.
Yeah. Sometimes it's that confidence though to cut it. Sometimes length is a comfort blanket. and no matter how short, how short around it is, but the fact you've got that little bit of length might be the comfort that you're holding on to. You know how we look at our hair as Black women, our hair is our crown, which it is, but it can be a crown in so many different ways, and we can wear it as a crown in so many different ways. So I guess that's what it is. But talking about, you talk about trimming hair, and Eleanor, you mentioned about professionally trimming hair, and Renee, obviously that's your bag and all that sort of stuff. We've got a question here from someone asking, what about if you cannot afford a professional regular trim? Are there any tips for cutting hair at home? Given the climate we are in at the moment, people might want to, make some savings in some places. So, is there any tips for making a saving of cutting your hair yourself at home, or trimming your hair at least? Maybe not cutting to a style, but trimming your hair yourself.
So nothing beats going into the salon, because like building a shape, building a style is like no one's going to do that but your stylist. But what you can do is put your hair into twists. Let's say you have a deep conditioner in there and you're putting it into twists. At the end of those twists on Afro texture hair, you can feel the knot, or you can feel kind of where it's gotten tangled or dry. And at the end of those twists, go ahead and give yourself little periodic trims. But then when you gain comfortability with going back into salon, you can have bigger gaps in between that. So my usual routine is telling clients to come in every 3 to 4 months for a trim, but you can create some distance between that time period by doing those little trims yourself, but making sure still to go into, because nothing's going to replace that.
Yeah. So you could stretch it to, twice a year. Yeah. You could stretch a professional cut to twice a year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so there's a question we have about daily washing. Now, this is something I struggle with because I go to the gym virtually every day, and I'm always like, should I rinse my hair? Should I wash my hair? Should I use a conditioner? And, what should I do? Because obviously I've got sweat in my hair, and I'm like, does daily washing for Afro hair, especially short Afro hair, it could be long, is that a problem?
So actually, if your scalp needs to be washed and you can work the kind of like wash and go look, because I'm guessing no one really wants to do styling on a daily basis, unless it's wash and go, then that's absolutely fine. What I think is more important is about the product that you use to wash your scalp if it's going to be on a daily basis. So there are some products out there that, really keep their costs down by basically using pretty cheap surfactants, so the cleansing agent in them. And so they almost do their job too well. They cleanse so well that it almost leaves the hair feeling and scalp feeling a bit dry, maybe even a little crunchy at times. So if that is happening, I would say either swap the product to a better quality product, or if you're really needing to, like you say, you're sweating, you're going to the gym daily, do a really thorough rinse, at least dissolve the sweat residue off, and then still put a leave-in conditioner afterwards so that the hair is still hydrated and has that conditioning agent going on it afterwards. But yeah, I would really invest in good quality products if you are cleansing that regularly. I mean, invest in good quality products anyway, right? If you care about your hair. But if it's going to be on a daily basis, yeah, because you don't want to also cause irritation to the scalp with a product that's in contact with it so regularly.
Fantastic. Jamelia, I mean, you guys provide discovery boxes, and I guess this is something that I feel like would be in your box. You would have the right kind of products for someone who, I can just imagine a gym bunny box of products. Someone who's like always at the gym, sweating their hair. How do you navigate that? Because obviously it's a discovery box, but you want people to be able to find the things they need for their particular needs. Like mine is, how do I manage sweat in my hair all the time? What would you say to that?
I would say, I would echo what Eleanor said about finding the right product, but I think it is very much about experimenting. So there are moisturizing shampoos, there's clarifying shampoos, there's sulfate-free shampoos, there's actually different types of shampoos. And we do feature all of those different types of shampoos in our boxes, but I think it's then up to you to choose which one works well for you, but also rotate products. I don't know if Renée and Eleanor will disagree with this, but for me, I find it really useful to just listen to my hair. So if I want to cleanse my hair, but I don't want it to feel strict, then I'll reach for a certain type of shampoo. Or now that my hair's straightened, when I want it to return back to its kinky curly style, I'm going to use a clarifying shampoo, which is completely going to strip my hair of moisture, but it's also going to remove all the silicones that I had to use in order to get my hair and for it to stay straight. So I think just understanding what the different roles of the different shampoos are. And thankfully, when you subscribe to Treasure Trust, you do end up with like a selection of products. So you can say, oh, okay, when I use this product, my hair felt like this, so I'm going to use this for today. Or do you know what? My hair is feeling dry. It's really cold outside, but I've been using a lot of products and I need to strip these products. And you'll say, okay, let me go for this moisturizing shampoo, which cleanses my hair, but it doesn't leave it limp and without any moisture whatsoever. So I think it's very much about understanding how your hair responds to products and then use those wisely based on the needs of your hair at that time.
It's important to have maybe a wardrobe of products, of cleansers.
I personally have a walk-in wardrobe of hair products.
Conditioners, like have a few options. I think people who know me know I work a lot in skincare, and I always say have a number of different cleansers for your skin, because there's going to be times in the month where your skin is oilier, you're going to need a bit more kick. There's going to be times when it's drier, you're going to need more moisture. So I guess you're saying about hair is the same thing. Have a selection that you may be able to call on.
Why not switch it up from time to time? I think there we go.
I love that idea. We're still on this hydration thing. There's a lot of questions coming in about hydration, and I guess it might be something to do with the time of year as well. But for hydration, I mean, the question is, and I'm going to stick with you, Jamelia. For hydration, should you wet your hair before you put in the leave-in conditioner? As in, should you put water on your hair first and then leave-in conditioner, or just leave-in conditioner?
No, I don't think you need to, because as mentioned, your leave-in conditioner should have water as one of the first ingredients anyway. I know that for me personally, on wash day, I do apply my leave-in conditioner to wet hair, but then throughout the rest of the week, I just apply it to dry hair. But I think, again, experiment. So I know that a lot of naturals have a spray bottle full of water, and you can spray your hair, then apply the leave-in and see how your hair responds to that. Or, for example, Aveda have the Nutriplenish spray leave-in conditioner, and it's a water consistency anyway. So you can just use that instead. So I don't think your hair necessarily needs to be wet, but if it is already wet because you've just washed your hair, then I don't think that's a bad thing.
So I've been doing it all wrong then, because I will put water on my hair.
No, you can though.
And just sort of do this and then put leave conditioner on. I just think leave conditioner onto like dry hair is a bit funny. I don't know.
But I think that's where it very much depends on your hair, because for me, my hair gets really wet quite quickly. And so when I apply a leave-in conditioner, I can actually feel the moisture in my hair. Whereas when I was applying a leave-in conditioner, it felt like it was sitting on top, or it just wasn't working into my hair, then I would wet my hair and apply it. So there's no black and white, which I think is what we're kind of getting from this discussion, that
experiment.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So over to you, Eleanor. A question from Jude. Thank you so much for your question, Jude. How do I prevent breakage when my hair is in braids? What's the best way to keep hair healthy when in a protective style? So I'm going to break it down and go backwards a little bit, just for anyone who might not know what a protective style is, because there's loads of people, there's over 260 people on this. So what is a protective style, Renée? And then Eleanor, I'm going to let you answer first about protecting the hair in braids.
So a protective style is one in which where you're not creating a lot of manipulation to your own hair. So it is in a style where you can leave your hair alone for a given amount of time, for a certain period of time. That is a protective style. To me, my definition of a protective style is one where you can access your scalp, because some people render a protective style a sew-in, but they can't even get to their scalp to itch it or to cleanse it or like to even oil it. So to me, that's not a protective style. And then for anytime a client is using protective styles consistently, like let's say they do a big chop, they don't like the way they look when their hair is short, and they want to give it some time before it gets to a certain length. So they're doing back-to-back braids. I always suggest that they never do the same braid styling back-to-back, that it's always it's different. You're doing cornrows and then you take that out, you do box braids, you take that out, and you do a different set, just natural hair straight back and using a lace front wig over that, because the braids do get heavy, and Black women in particular are prone to traction, especially along the edges. So like switching up the braids if you're doing it, and switching up what the protective style is, but just also making sure that like you're not putting something on your hair where your scalp can't breathe, or like just feel the air around it for a long period of time.
Yeah, I hear you. So Eleanor, how do we prevent breakage when hair is in braids? Or really, perhaps maybe any protective style. I can feel where this is going, but let's go. Let's
go. All right. I think for me personally, I need to unpack the word protective style, because it gets used once again in association with braids, with weaves. And for me, none of those styles are particularly protective for hair. They are like Renée said, they're low manipulation in the sense that your hands aren't in your hair all the time, but are they protective? I wouldn't say so. You've got tension on the scalp. You've got consistent rubbing of maybe extension hairs or things like that on the hair shaft itself for sometimes months at a time. And those cause weaknesses and breakage points itself in the hair shaft. So by the time you do then take out your braids, you might notice a fair amount of breakage actually happening as a result. So for me, the best way to prevent breakage is to not have the braids, but it's quite a brutal approach. I totally admit it's a brutal approach, but it is, prevention is a best form of not having it. But, but I think, you know what, with all styles, there's this kind of cost of damage that comes with it, right? So if you recognize that you want the braids, and you also are aware, I think this is what more of us have to be aware of, that those styles come with this level of damage, then you can make the decision, okay, am I willing to have that damage? Am I willing to pay that cost for the style? And if so, then fair enough. And then, once the style comes out, like Renée said, don't do it back to back. Steam your hair really well, condition it really well, probably get a good trim afterwards, and give it a rest before you do another kind of long-term style. I would always avoid long-term styles. I think try and leave your hair out as much as possible, but I know it's not always going to be everyone's choice, and therefore just recognize the damage cost that comes with it.
Okay, so that said, there was a question about maintaining the hairline from damage from braids, which I think is common. As stylists, you guys would have seen that damaged hairline. I've got a little bit of it going on, and that's from braids. So is there anything anybody can do about that?
Take the braids out. I mean, if but genuinely, like, if you've noticed that damage is occurring because of braids, you can't expect your hair and your follicles to recover whilst they're still in braids. If you were diabetic, a doctor's not going to say, well, have a little bit of sugar, it'll be fine, if that's causing you damage. So it's, once again, I sound brutal because I'm not allowing some people to enjoy and still have fun with their styles. But if they are seeing damage and they don't want that to occur, then they need to stop or change that style.
Okay, I hear you. Jamelia, would you go as far? Let me throw a question in here. Do you think as Black women, we are too harsh on our hair? We think our hair can withstand so much?
Yes, absolutely. I feel like the common perception is that our hair is really, as you said, it's very resilient. It can take a lot of manipulation, when in fact our hair type, because it has so much curvature, in the way that it's constructed, is actually very, very fragile. So I feel like our hair cannot actually take as much as we think it can take, which is why low manipulation styles, protective styles have been the go-to for me personally. And it's only once I started doing those styles that I saw a difference in not only the health of my hair, but the length of my hair. So I definitely think there is this myth of our hair being super resilient and it can take anything, when in actual fact, our hair is actually very fragile and needs to be handled with care. So yeah, I would absolutely say that there is a definite misconception about our hair type.
I would,
Renee, the same thing.
So yeah, I would like to say that, so there's also a cultural aspect to this, where Black women are coming out of their relaxed styles, but also blow drying a lot, because we still see ourselves for a lot part, especially in the US, presentable for work and stuff like that with our hair straight, as opposed to in its natural set. In that case, when Eleanor was talking about mitigating the chances of risk, like figuring out how much risk to what, like putting a lot of heat in your hair is more damaging than box braids, in my opinion, because you are damaging and damaging inconsistently throughout your hair. And with those inconsistent points of damage, like even if you're trimming your ends regularly, if you have this band of damage somewhere here and your hair is this long, you have to wait for all of this to grow out to fix that. And as it's growing out, it's going to fray at higher rates and it's much quicker. And so you're never catching your hair. So heat damage to me is the worst of all risks for Black hair in particular. And in that case, like instead of doing that to yourself, especially if you live in places like the South here that gets really humid, put it in the box braids. But then knowing that box braids or braids have a certain amount of risk too, right? Just like playing with those. But I see a lot of value in protective styles given those things. So I would never, I wouldn't say don't, because I just know that the box braids are not going anywhere culturally. It's not happening, you know? So like thinking about like, okay, why am I using it? How frequently am I using it? And then what are other options I have?
So would you say then, I'm just going to throw my own question in, is there a good way to do box braids? Or is there a better way to do protective styling? You know, should put it like this, should people go to like a stylist like yourself to do protective styling? Because, you know, everybody has the auntie or, you know, the somebody down the road that can braid hair, you know, and they can pull the front and all that sort of stuff. And it costs, you know, so much less than going to a proper stylist to get it done. Is there a right or wrong way to do protective styling?
There are ways to do it better. I would say the wrong way would be the products that you use in order to get the style. See, what's really popular right now are the knotless braids, especially the one with a bigger base. In which case, in order for it to look neat in the beginning, you need to use a lot of like gels, like Ampro and stuff like that in the hair before you braid it. Unfortunately, those are very drying and caustic to the hair. And then you're doing that and you're doing the knotless braids. And unfortunately, the knotless braids, so when you put a knot in a braid, right, it's like it anchors in the hair and puts less weight than the knotless braids put into the hair. So like when you do the knotless braids, so much of the weight of that extension goes directly to your hair without like this anchor first before it comes down. So I am not a huge fan of knotless. I like knots still. And then when you do them, don't do them as tight, give yourself some room. So like the really neat finishes with a lot of like using edge control or like products that are not great for the hair that's going to be sitting on your hair as long as you have this protective style, which generally women would use for 6 weeks to 2 months. You know, like these are not products you would want to have sitting on your hair that long. Yeah.
So basically there is a good, I don't want to say bad, but there's a good and there's a better way of, if you need to go into protective styling for any number of reasons, which, you know, I think for the sake of practicality of life, you know, we're all adulting out here. Sometimes it's just good to just put your, you know, hair is the last thing you want to be thinking about, worrying about, and all that sort of stuff. So there is some practicality to it with the lives we lead. So I guess there's a good and there's a even better way of doing it, and is making sure you access that better way so that you do protect your natural hair and you aren't left with nothing. You know, you take the braids out and then you're left with nothing. And talking about being left with nothing, a question which I'm going to direct to you, Eleanore, first is about the menopause, because obviously, was it yesterday, Sunday, was National Menopause Day. You know, and with menopause, there's lots of internal changes going on in the body, which does affect skin and scalp and hair. You know, so how can that be managed in terms of breakage, changes in your scalp, maybe drier scalp? You know, how can all that be managed?
I think the first thing to do is we all need to talk about menopause more, actually, because especially if we're women, at some point we're probably going to go through it, right? In fact, we are definitely going to go through it, but it doesn't get discussed that much. And like you said, Dija, there are huge changes happening in the body in terms of your hormone levels, which do impact things that are dictated by our hormone levels. So our hair growth cycle is one of those things. Higher estrogen levels will hold hair, or is linked to holding hair in the growth cycle for longer, which is why during pregnancy we might see hair, you know, grow even more or less shedding occur, and then post-pregnancy we see a big amount of shedding. And the same often happens with women who are going through the menopause. Probably less noticeable if it's quite a slow transition through, but you know, some women it will be over 1 year and they'll just go into the menopause within that 1 year. Others it will be over a 10-year period. But as your estrogen, progesterone levels drop, you do see a drop in hair density. Your sebaceous gland activity may drop down as well. So that's sebaceous gland activity is controlling how much sebum we produce, how much natural scalp oil we produce, and therefore we may see a bit more dryness on the scalp. But I think density is probably the biggest one. And for a lot of my patients who are discussing this, it's also about just managing expectations a little bit. You know, I don't think it's realistic to think that we're going to have the same density of hair that we had when we were 18 for the whole of our life. That is going to change, you know, and even if we're in the best shape possible, our body's internal system is still also aging, and that leads to changes. But I think what is really important is that if you are going through quite a more stressful menopause, so you're really noticing the symptoms quite a lot, that you go and get some help to help manage those symptoms so that they don't put a further stress on you. You know, if you're not sleeping well, then your body's not resting, and your body's in a higher state of stress, and that will impact everything from, you know, digestion to skin and scalp conditions. So actually just managing the main symptoms can be really, really helpful when it comes to its impact on the hair and scalp.
Can you get menopausal hair? Now, I know this question is going to make me sound stupid, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Can you get menopausal hair products or products suited for people more in the menopause? Is that the thing?
I worked with a brand called Living Proof before Aveda, and Living Proof does have a branch that is specific. It's called something. It's difficult to sell because you're essentially telling women, hey, I can tell that you're because you are starting to lose your hair. The whole, it's like the shampoo preserves coloring because they obviously, usually people who are in the menopause stage color their hair as well. And then the other styling products, there's like a leave-in, and then there's a one for plumping, like plumping the hair, because like Eleanore said, density is impacted greatly during that time period. But that line wasn't necessarily created with the Black woman in mind. But yeah, I all to say that, like, I do know that there is a brand out there that did recognize that this particular woman in this phase of her life needs a different set of products or thinking around products. But yeah.
Jamelia, it's an idea, right?
It's an idea. I mean, I didn't have an answer for that because I haven't come across any in the market. So I had to sit back on that one. But it's definitely an idea because you will have very unique needs during that phase of life. So definitely an idea.
Yeah, I like that. I don't think I'm not there yet, but I think that if in many years to come that as Black women, there was a brand out there or service out there that catered a lot more to the kind of changes our hair, because already if I'm thinking our hair is a little bit more sensitive anyway because of the structure and all of that, so it may be impacted more. I'm sure there needs more research into it. It may be impacted a little bit more by menopause, so anything in that sphere would I guess would work well. But I do have a question for you, Jamelia. It's a direct question that's come in from Manny about the treasure chest boxes. Is there a wait?
There is a wait list. Fortunately for us, lockdown done us really well as a business, so much so that we reached capacity for our subscription boxes. But we do have a wait list in place, which we open up every month and open a few spaces. But not to mention, on our website, we also have curl care essentials boxes. So these are everything that I've discussed. So a shampoo, a deep conditioner, a leave-in, and an oil or a styler. And that will provide you with everything that you need from all of our favorite brands. And it's only £25. So while you can't subscribe, you can buy as frequently as you please these curl care essentials boxes, which will continue to introduce you to new brands and new products.
You know, whilst obviously I'm sad for people that there is a waiting list, I am also very happy for you as a Black business owner and brand that you are in that position, and I hope that you will recover from it and obviously let more people in. But I think that's fantastic, so congratulations and well done you.
Thank you.
So we've only got a few minutes left, and what would be great to hear from each of you is about moisturizing Black hair. So lots of questions we've had tonight about moisturizing Black hair, keeping Afro hair hydrated so it can be in its best health. Can you give us your sort of two key product recommendations for moisturizing Black hair? I'll start with you, Jamelia, since I was just talking to you just now.
As in specific products or product types? Specific products. For me, the Aveda Nutriplenish Deep Conditioner is a dream. I love the smell of it. I'm very naughty though, and I do sleep with deep conditioner in my hair, but I do sleep with a shower cap on, so it doesn't dry on my hair and it is still moist in the morning, mainly because I'm shattered by the time I've completed the shampoo stage of my hair care. So by the time I apply deep conditioner, I'm ready to sleep. So I would definitely say Aveda as far as a deep conditioner. And then as far as a leave-in, this is the leave-in that I spent years trying to find. And then once I found it, it worked. It doesn't work as well for my hair anymore, but it did at the time. And that would be Giovanni's Deep Moisture Leave-In Conditioner.
Fantastic. Eleanor, if I can get two from you, please. UK hair recommendations.
Okay, I'm actually hopeless because we make our own products, right? So I haven't used any other brand in the last 10 years. Our leave-in conditioner, what can I say? It's lovely, and we use it on all our hair types, and it's hypoallergenic. So that's the one that I know about and that I feel secure to recommend. But I would say maybe just a tip rather than a product recommendation is, if you are looking to try and lock in a bit more moisture when you're adding your leave-in conditioner, try some single twists or some 2-strand twists once you've done your leave-in conditioner, and it will just clump the hair together and hold in more moisture rather than it drying out straight away. So you'll benefit from a bit more moisture. So yeah, our leave-in conditioner and twists.
Fantastic, thank you. Renée, last but not least, what would be your two hair moisturizing products for Black hair?
Jamelia, I just want to say that we have under the Nutriplenish line, I got to make sure I remember to have them send you a sample because it's in the kitchen still. It hasn't come out on the shelves yet, but the Nutriplenish Deep Leave-In Conditioner. It's heavier than the spray leave-in, but it's better to keep on your hair if you're going to exceed the 30-minute time frame with it on your hair. So just look out for that. But for me, the spray leave-in conditioner, like Jamelia said, because every time you spray it in your hair, it is a water base. It promises 72 hours of rehydration. So it boosts hydration and it keeps all the things that detract the hydration from your hair, just when you walk outside, from happening. So it keeps all of those things at bay. And then for me, making sure that your styling products are natural. I know that this is not a specific, but it's like a tip. Making sure that the thing that you're using for styling are naturally based products. So like you're looking for products that are at least 85% or more naturally derived than not. Because like everything else, things that are like silicone heavy, like real moisture really can't get in there and penetrate. So if you're looking for maximum moisture and things are going to be sitting on your hair for an X amount of time, days, making sure that it's naturally derived.
Fantastic. Well, I can't say how pleased I am we've had this session. Thank you so much. I know we have run over a little bit, so I just want to say thank you to everyone who's stuck in and listened in, and I could see the chat going and lots of interesting conversation happening in the chat, not less a conversation that we're having here as well. So thank you so much, and for all your wonderful questions as well. Renée, Eleanor, Jamelia, it's been an absolute pleasure, and I have learned so much as well, and I'm sure everyone else has as well. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you for sharing your evening with us. And if anyone else is sticking around for the sessions to come, then if there's anything to go by, if this is anything to go by, then it's going to be live. So thank you so much. I can't say thank you enough. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm going to sign out of this now. See you on the next one.